these days, every watch brand wants to save a turtle or a fish somewhere, right? But often it's totally disconnected from what they do or from what their audience also does. We make about 15 tons of watches. It's a funny way of thinking about what we do, right?
A great question for you, which I'm sure you won't tell me the answer, but I'll try and ask anyway. What can we expect to see coming out from Oris during 2023? Hello and welcome. Joining me today, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Rolf Studer, the CEO of Oris.
Hi, Anthony. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. And you have a great view from your window. That must be sunny Holstein, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's not that sunny today. It's a wintry, cloudy day. But yes, this is Holstein, and this is part of our factory in the background.
Fantastic. Well, we're very privileged to spend a little bit of time with you, and we're going to be talking about all sorts of things, including Oris's past, the present, and of course the future, which we'll have in a separate conversation. But let's start with you, Rolf, because you, I think, are one of the most dynamic and charismatic CEOs working in the watch industry at the moment. And I read an interview with you previously where you were saying that your role currently with Oris, it's almost destiny, because it's a company that you admired in the past, and I believe you even had an Oris watch when you were much younger.
Yeah, well, to work at Oris really is a dream come true. It's a company where I personally can live the values that are important to me, myself, and I think it's the case for most of the people here, that they can just be themselves and do what they do best. And that's why we all go the extra mile, and we have to, because we are one of the few independents still around. And if you are not someone who wants to go out there and make a difference every day, then this certainly is the wrong company for you. But gladly, we have a team here who wants to do exactly that.
And how did it all start for you? What first attracted you to Oris?
Well, I always liked the watch industry, and being Swiss, this is part of our culture. And after having worked for a number of years for a multinational company, I was looking for ways to get into the industry, and then this opportunity with Oris came across, and that's now 16 years ago. Here I am.
Absolutely. And I guess you're going to be there sometime into the future yet.
I do hope so.
Which for you then, when you were thinking, well, Oris is the company that reflects my values, and as you were saying, reflects the values of everyone else, what is it about the company that resonates so much with you and the people who work there?
Well, I think it's this spirit of independence and that responsibility that comes with it, and this, we call it the luxury of common sense, the absence of corporate things, the absence of having to report to Paris or Rome or I don't know where. We here in Holstein define our own fate. And that has always fascinated me, that from such a small village, like we are here in the Waldenburg Valley, in the canton of Basel-Land, things go global with Oris, and people working here, coming from the area around here. It's a small town neighborhood, but everybody speaks 2-3 languages. It's just normal to interact with China or Argentina. And still, going home after work here in that little valley. So that mix of this international outlook, while still being very local, I think that is what really makes us.
That's what I personally have always admired about Oris. Is a company that very much goes its own way, takes a somewhat different direction to even the other Swiss watch manufacturers. And it's true that even your home base of Holstein, while Switzerland is a country that is very famous for watches, the area where you are really the only guys there doing what you are doing.
Absolutely. We are in the Jura Mountains, which is the home of Swiss watchmaking, but we are on the very east part towards Basel, in the German-speaking part of Switzerland, and we always have been away a little bit from these big watchmaking centers of Switzerland, which led to that somewhat maverick position that we have, right? And for a long time, Oris was a very proud company. Then things got difficult, and sometimes there was also a tendency to be part of that watch bubble, so to say. But lately, we really have found pride and express that pride in what we do ourselves. You also see that in our logo, where it now says Holstein
Yeah.
1904. And when we did that, and when we adjusted our logo, people were like, Holstein, nobody can pronounce it, nobody knows where it is actually, but it doesn't matter
do
because
now.
it's our home, right? It's our soul, and that's why we have it in our logo now.
I think one of the you were talking about the independent spirit and the way that Oris likes to go its own way. For me, one of the watches that I enjoyed wearing, which I thought really epitomized this perfectly, was the cotton candy collection. I don't think any other company would have come out with something like that.
Well, actually, cotton candy was to some extent a result of the pandemic. We wanted to cheer people up and give them some color in these dark times. That's when we came up with cotton candy. Also because my wife found that the Holstein Edition that we did in full bronze chronograph with gilt dial was nice, but a smaller version with nice dials would be great too. That's why we made that, and yeah, it was the right watch in the right moment, and they make a bit splash.
Was the pink of the cotton candy inspired by the color of the buildings behind you? I don't know if it's just a light, but there's a sort of, it looks a little bit familiar.
Yeah, it's a similar color. That was not the inspiration though. The idea was to make a bronze watch that's for all genders and that just puts a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Also, as a company, we are very serious about watchmaking here in Holstein. But when it comes to it, in these days, what a watch must do is put a smile on your face. Nobody needs it to show the time, right? It is really here to cheer you up. And to make people smile is our official company purpose. That's what we want to do. That's what we are here for. That's why we get up every morning to make our customers, but also ourselves, smile with what we do. And if we achieve, then that makes us very happy.
I'll tell you something that makes me smile about Oris too, is you have a big bear promoting the watches. The Oris Bear, that makes people laugh, doesn't it? It makes people smile, like you say.
Yeah, well, the Oris Bear. A lot of people ask us, what is the story behind the Oris Bear? Well, in fact, the Oris Bear has been with us for many years. It was given to us by an artist who helped us with artwork for a collection that we launched in the early 2000s. And it was always around. These bears, they always smiled. And whenever you looked at them, it made you smile back. And, you're in the watch industry and there is a lot of ambassadors sponsoring going on, and a lot of brands work with people who are paid to play a role, right? And then they pay them to play the role to like their watches. And for us, that was always somewhat, didn't make 100% sense. But we had that bear. And a teddy bear, is the perfect canvas for any kind of emotion.
Absolutely.
How can you be angry with a bear, right? It's not possible. Everybody used to have a bear to portray his emotions on when we were children, and it still works to this day. So for us, this is how we want to bring across the emotional sides of Oris, and yes, as you said, it seems to work rather well.
I love the cotton candy. There's so many other other watches in your collection which I admire, but I'd like to hear which one is your favorite watch of the Oris collection. Hard question, I know.
That's a tough question, of course. Well, there are a few watches that I like. One that I like especially is the first Coulson that we made. It was our first bronze watch before that bronze hype really started, dedicated to Coulson, a great personality. And his claim, it's not a sin to get knocked down, it's a sin to stay down, is quintessentially what we stay for at Oris. Be the master of your own fate. Your watch is not something that separates you from others, but that is a token that you will stand up again, and that you will go out there again. So the first Coulson limited edition is a watch that I cherish very much. Then also the watch I wear now, Pro Pilot X on the Salmon dial. It's a watch that I really love. I think PPX is a great collection. I love that Salmon dial because I always loved vintage Salmon dial watches, and to me that is our 2022 take on the Salmon dial. Another one of my favorite watches is our full steel world timer, the original world timer from the 1990s. I have the 36 millimeters version myself. It was the Holstein Edition this year also, and yeah, this is very much Oris too.
Absolutely, yes. I enjoyed looking at that particular Holstein edition, and this is something that I love about Oris too, is the fact that each year you have the Holstein edition, and every single one, I think, represents something very special in your history, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's only 250 watches a year. We spend a lot of time thinking about what it could be next year. I think this year will be exciting, too different than what you saw in the past, but I think very exciting, and it's our tribute to the community that made us big, and still we know who helped us getting out of the shadow. That's the watch community, the watch enthusiasts, the people that are our true ambassadors out there. And yeah, we don't forget that, and we will always cater to these people.
You talk a lot about Holstein, the fact that it's even written on the dial. This is where the watches are from, and I think everyone now knows that Oris is from Holstein. And that leads us to, I think, a really important plank of your business, which is sustainability and giving back to the communities. And I think we're seeing this more and more in the way that Oris has evolved, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. And in the luxury industry, the theme has become very important. And yeah, sometimes you feel the industry being a little helpless about the topic. And quite honestly, it is difficult to have a good message towards sustainability when your message until now was party till the bitter end, right? At Oris, we were always independent. We had to look after our own means. And to look after your means basically is the most sustainable thing that you can do, right? And that's why this topic was always not only close to our heart, but part of our DNA, because it's what we do. We had to be careful how we spend our money. We couldn't just live as if there was no tomorrow, and then you develop an attitude towards leading a sustainable lifestyle, and that is what we do. And then we were the first watch company to be certified climate neutral, and not only that, we also pledged to reduce 10% every year for 3 years, so minus around 30%. We are on a good way, but it's difficult. To be climate neutral is rather easy. You buy the certificate, right? But then to really reduce, that's hard. But we do it. We have a plan, and we know where these reductions are coming from. And yes, we take it very serious.
For you, it's not it's not just a philosophy, or it's not just words, isn't it? You look around the factory, and I'd love to come and look around the factory one day. And I believe you have lots and lots of practical measures to reduce your environmental impact and to give more to the community as well as a result.
Absolutely. We just renovated the factory. We isolated the roof. We installed solar panels. Isolating the roof leads to 30% less consumption in heating energy. Solar panels let us generate 60% of the electricity that we use. We change market after market now to electric cars. We reduce our flights. We have a program in place. We know the three biggest emittents. They are Switzerland, the United States, and China. And we know the five biggest sources of emissions. They are mainly our own travel, logistics, and commuting. And we have, for every market, we have a plan behind these emissions. And that's why you need a plan if you want concrete action as a result, right? And that's what we have. But not only that, for me, it's also very important that it's an attitude, and I don't want to dictate it. What we do is we don't only do cleanups around the world, we also do inner cleanups with our teams where we discuss what does it mean for you to be sustainable, to lead a sustainable lifestyle. And that's how we grow this attitude towards the topic, and this way we as a team really carry it forward.
I think one great example of that, which I loved, was the New York Harbour watch. And I wasn't aware about the story about the depopulation of oysters in New York Harbour until I read the story behind the watch. It was a story that really sucked me in, and I think a fascinating project to get behind.
Absolutely. I love that project and the watch coming from and with it for several reasons. First of all, it's a beautiful watch, I think, with that mother of pearl dial. And then the Billion Oysters project is spot on what we want to do and how we contribute. It's not a topic in some faraway place. It's right where we live. You know, these days every watch brand wants to save a turtle or a fish somewhere, right? But often it's totally disconnected from what they do or from what their audience also does.
Yeah.
Billion Oysters, that's in Manhattan, you know, and they have a program with pupils, with school kids, helping them doing what they do, helping them with the oysters, with the shells, and they educate people through their program. And that is what we need to do, because that is where we really have leverage also as a watch company. You know, it's our customer, the person who can buy a mechanical watch, who can spend the money on a mechanical watch, is the person who can really make a difference. The person who can make the decision to take a flight or not to take a flight, to drive this or that car. And that is where we make the difference. It's not, let's be honest, it's not with the actual watch itself, you know, it's also not with the material in the watch. For example, recycled steel. That's one of these topics these days, right?
Yeah.
We make about 15 tons of watches. It's a funny way of thinking about what we do, right? About a third of that is steel. That's about 5 tons. Our whole watch output, these 15 tons, that's about 10 cars, just if you think about it.
Wow.
Yeah? And if you think about a car manufacturing plant, that's the output of a few minutes. That's what we do a whole year. Then out of that is 5 tons of steel. These 5 tons of steel, they are the equivalent of a business class flight, Zurich to Los Angeles and back. Mm-hmm. That is the carbon footprint of the steel we use. And now, you know, now comes the hard thing about it. It's not about that steel. It's about what we do around the world. You know, these events we do around the world, our industry does around the world, that lifestyle that we lead. This is what we need to think about. This is where we have leverage, you know? And that's a hard truth, but that's what we need to address. And you talked about the Billion Oysters watch before. I was at that launch in New York, so I flew over there to do that. And the right question to ask now is, do you really need to do that? Do you need to go there? Well, we need to find a balance. We need to work within the sustainability triangle. Yes, we want to be sustainable, but we also run global business. There are 250 families depending on us being sustainable in an economic way also. So when I go to the United States, then I try to stay longer, do more, so I just have to go once and I don't have to go twice. And this is the questions that we face every day.
I love that it's a complex but also a holistic philosophy, isn't it, towards sustainability? And it's wonderful to see a company which is doing this in a very genuine way from the heart, as opposed to thinking that it's a good part of PR or marketing.
Thank you.
We talked about that. I didn't realize the statistic from the steel from the cases, but if we're talking about cases, one case I found particularly interesting was the Coulson Aviation Limited Edition, and that's a real example of really looking to the future and introducing new technology into Oris. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, well, Coulson Limited Edition, very interesting watch because of the theme that's behind it, firefighting. When you're a sustainable company, like Oris is, and you're climate neutral, then aviation watches, which is a very traditional collection of watches in our industry, but also for Oris, you have to think hard. How do I approach that topic? I really think that old white men flying old planes for leisure, that is somewhat gone, right? This is not the message we want to give. Aviation needs to have a purpose in order to make sense. And firefighting is one of the literally burning topics of today in the United States, but also in Southern Europe, also in Asia. And that is how we want to talk about aviation these days. And you will see more coming from that angle. Firefighting is really something that we want to talk about, that lets us talk about the things that are important to us, that also lets us make watches that we think are relevant for these days, for how we live today.
The method of manufacture of that watch is incredible as well, with the carbon, with the
exactly. And with the Coulson Limited Edition, we have this carbon fiber case that is not just a carbon fiber case, but a 3D printed carbon fiber case. And we are the first watch company to use this technique. What is special about this technique is that we can, in this 3D printing process, we can lay the carbon fibers the way we want them to, so we can steer the layering of the carbon fiber, which takes full advantage of the material. So if you take one of these cases, they're very light, and you can't bend them, you can't do anything to it because they are so stiff. It's incredible. And thinking about it, it's carbon. Carbon is the result of fire, right? And then you have that burning dial in that watch. So it all comes together. The theme of firefighting, a carbon case, carbon fiber case, and that fire burning from the dial. So it's really a 360-degree approach to the topic, and it makes me very happy and proud that we have a watch that's talking about firefighting in such a 360-degree view.
And I guess completing the circle is the fact that the reason why firefighting is in the news is a lot of it is to do with global warming, isn't it? The fact that you have more and more wildfires, and we have carbon in the case, and carbon offsetting is another important topic. So it really is, as you say, a 360-degree watch with so much thought having gone into it.
Thank you.
On the subject of that, I guess, is that move, that accent on sustainability, if we talk about some of the other things you do, in the past you were associated with Formula One, with sponsorship from Williams. Was that something that was seen to be no longer compatible? Because I believe in England you are now a cricket sponsor, which is obviously a huge game in England, probably not in Switzerland.
Yeah, you're right. Formula One was for a number of years a very important part of our sponsoring. We were one of the longest standing sponsors of the Williams team. We felt very close to the people from Williams, an independent company, too, for a long time. But yes, it just didn't make sense anymore from where we want the brands to go. That's why we said goodbye to that sponsoring, also to motorsports, watches, basically in general, because it wasn't fitting with the brand message that we have, how we develop the brands. And yes, we do now sponsor cricket, sport. We love very much too. A sport we believe is also close to what we stand for at Oris. Very genuine, very honest, no pretension, just good people playing a fair and honest sport, and the matches being family and community events. There's a lot of things that resonated with us, and happy to be part of that. And I was at Lord's for the first time in my life this summer, and I was very much impressed by how these people there do things, and by cricket as a sport. So yeah, I became a fan very quickly.
Is there a cricket team in Holstein?
No, cricket is not so much a Swiss sport. It's, as you know, it's the second biggest spectator sport in the world, and we are a global company, so it certainly makes sense for us. But of course, the Lord sponsoring is very much directed towards the audience in the United Kingdom, but also in Middle Eastern markets, in India.
It's huge in India, isn't it? Obviously, as you mentioned, you're a global company, but where do you find, you're a very individual company, and part of the thing about being an individual is that maybe all of the watches will not be to everyone's tastes. So where do you find that your watches strike the biggest chord? What are your strongest markets? Which sort of people are you appealing to in the world?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I love to be out there and be at events with our customers, because to get that energy back and that sparkle in the eye really compensates for all these hours you're in the office, you work on Excel files and do all these things. I take so much from being out there and talking to the people who spend their money for our watches, and they spend a lot of money for our watches. And I think that's something we often forget in our industry, £2,000, £3,000, that's a lot of money. And in our industry, it's great, and it's only 10 grand. 10 grand. I don't know when I spent 10 grand the last time, right? So being out there and talking to these people, it really is something that makes my days. And they are so diverse. Normally, we like to think that we cater to a person who knows about watches. Our soul is within the watch enthusiast community, and growing from there. But basically, what we want to do is to make a watch for the citizen in the philosophical sense, for the person who needs to work for his money, person who takes his own fate in his hands. And we also see ourselves as the citizen in this somewhat feudalistic industry that the watch industry can be. And yes, these are the people that buy our watches, and these are the people that we make our watches for.
We've spoken a lot about the watches that have come before, but I've got a great question for you, which I'm sure you won't tell me the answer, but I'll try and ask anyway. What can we expect to see coming out from Oris during 2023?
Well, I'm really excited to see the releases of everything we have prepared for this year. There will be a lot of great things. I think from a technical perspective, as well as from a making people smile perspective. Obviously, Clipper 400 will be important. Our in-house 5-day power reserve, 10 years warranty, 10-year service interval, non-magnetic movements. We will continue to show releases around that. But there will also be some interesting pieces within Aquis and within Aviation too. I'm sorry, I can't give you any concrete information, but that would give the surprise away. But 2023 will be, I hope, another exciting year for Oris and our customers alike.
So have you got any thoughts about the Holstein Edition?
Yes.
Would you like to share any?
I would love to, but I can't.
That's great. Will we see Oris continue down? When the last time we spoke, we talked a lot about sustainability initiatives, some of the projects that Oris has got behind. Have you got any new projects coming in terms of sustainability, in terms of organizations that you're getting behind?
Yes, there will be new projects that we will be working on. There will be existing projects where we will write the next chapter. It will be an interesting year also from us talking about sustainability. Again, unfortunately, I can't reveal more, but we went into the depth, went to another level, and you will see that's coming out. Actually, one part of it already at Watches and Wonders, and then some more news later throughout the year. So there will be exciting things also when it comes to sustainability.
Rolf, of course, coming up soon, we have Watches and Wonders, and I guess you're busy planning for that already.
Absolutely. Last year was the first time that we went to Geneva for a trade show. Us being from Basel, of course, Basel World was always a home play, and I was very sad to see Basel World go, also because it wasn't an exhibit of brands, it was really a show for the industry. Yeah, we went to Geneva, quite honestly, not really knowing what to expect, but left very happily, I must say. It was a great show, and we were received very well, very friendly by the Geneva brands. And for us as a brand from the German-speaking part of the Jura Mountains, it was going there to the central Swiss watchmaking. The fair of that feudalist image that you have of the Swiss watch industry, us perceiving ourselves as the citoyen, the enlightened brand of this industry. And I was happy that we were able to portray our values and to be ourselves within that framework of established Geneva brands, and to have, so to say, a friendly exchange of ideas, of approaches. And that is what I think this industry should be, right? Each brand has its own philosophy. Each brand should stand and defend their philosophy, and that's certainly what we do. And that's what we did in Geneva. And being able to do that makes me happy and proud. And I'm looking very much forward to this year's Watches and Wonders in March.
We're very much looking forward to it as well. If I can ask you as a CEO a more general question about the watch industry looking forward, obviously with the COVID pandemic, with all sorts of things economic factors. It's been a very tough world for anyone working in any industry. What do you see the outlook being in general terms for the watch industry in 2023? Are we seeing an economic recovery, or do you think people are really still feeling the effects of the cost of living crisis, the uncertainty with the war in Ukraine? How do you think all these factors translate into the watch industry this coming year?
Yeah, it's very interesting times in general, but also in our industry. All indicators are deep red, right? Normally we should be down double digits, but now we are up double digits. This year, it's very hard to predict how things will be turning out. I think it will not be an easy year, but I think what we see is it's really a change of things. To me, the pandemic has closed a cycle, the cycle of the watch crisis that started in the late 1970s, right? When the question came up, why do we need mechanical watches? And the answer was given by the Swiss watch industry. It reinvented itself, and especially as a brand like Oris, that always made watches for people who needed a watch to show the time, but didn't want to spend a fortune on it. That business model was completely demolished by the quartz watch that showed the time more precisely and even cheaper. I think now we are at the point that we also have given an answer to the smartwatch. A few years ago, the question was, will the smartwatch again eliminate the mechanical watch? And the answer now very clearly is no. The mechanical watch has found its home on the wrists of people as a statement for their own values, as an object of luxury and lifestyle that has its right of being there. And nobody, I think, will question if a mechanical watch will be driven out of business by an electronic device. And pandemic really has helped because people had so much time at home to read up and down all these blogs, to watch all the shows, including yours, and they learned so much about mechanical watches that they are also ready to spend more on a mechanical watch, that they want to have more than one mechanical watch because they understand what's behind it, and they see what also different watches and different watch brands offer. So thank you, Anthony. Thank all your colleagues for helping spreading the message. And I think that will also carry us through 2023. That's risen interest in watches, risen knowledge of the watch, the person interested in watches helps our industry as a general, be it very high end, be it at the lower end, be it in the middle, it doesn't matter. For me, as long as you're interested in mechanical watches, that's a good thing. And this will help all brands and also Oris going through 2023.
It's our passion and our enthusiasm, obviously, to do this. And I think, as you mentioned, it is difficult times. There are many uncertainties in the world, whether it's economic or not. And I was talking to a friend who's a very big enthusiast about watches, and he had an interesting theory. He said that the more times are uncertain, people they resonate with the reliability, the precision, and the enduring timelessness of a mechanical watch, the permanency of a watch, which marks the time consistently no matter what. And it's actually, he was saying that a watch is a source of comfort to people in these times. And of course, if you add in your Oris mix of optimism, as you said earlier, making people smile, then maybe this is the right brand for the right moment.
I hope so, and I can only agree to that. A mechanical watch, you always you look at it and you think you understand. It's mechanics. You look at these wheels; they work together. They show the time. It's really a wonder of micro mechanics. it's like an old car that you think if it breaks you can fix it, or at least you understand how it can be fixed, and that's what makes it. And yes, a watch should stand, a mechanical watch should stand for optimism. It should cheer you up in your daily life, going through your day, and that's what we want to do with our watches, and that's what we want to do with our brand.
Rolf, that is a beautiful sentiment. Fantastic words. Thank you so much for your time. It's been fascinating talking to you. It's been fascinating learning about Oris, and it sounds like we've got plenty to look forward to this year as well.
Thank you.